Okay, I don't have PowerPoint. I'm just.
No, oh, put your feet up, you know.
I just talk. So, yeah. So I first met Arjun just last year, and just add on a little bit of the story. His dad was Dr. Gir Singh, who actually saved my life. You know, when I must have been 9 or 10 years old, and I was in a car accident, and I broke my back and went to the light. You could see that 3 times in one day, but Dr. Gir Singh just stayed with me for, I don't even know how long I was out. When I came back, I had to relearn to walk and all that kind of stuff. And he called me his miracle child because I came back. And so we call each other brother now. So I started firefighting in 1982, and I was 15 years old, and just kind of, I grew up with fire because I lived not too far from here in Ashcroft at the time, and we didn't have power and all that stuff, so we lived with fire all year round, and we just learned how to use it safely, and even during the hottest summers, we still had to have fire to cook and clean and do all that stuff. So moving into Wildfire, I started in 1991 with the Merit Fire Devils unit crew, the Type 1 crew, and there was 200 people, Indigenous people that were trying out for 20 jobs, and it was really a rigorous test to get on, and we did 2 hours of fitness, and then the rest was academic for the day, 8-hour days for, I think it was about 4 weeks, and then finally we made the roster and started firefighting, and the Merit Fire Devils unit crew, I guess, was born, and we traveled all over BC fighting fires, and then started going all over Canada. So that was really cool for us. It was, it was a lot of our first, a lot of first helicopter rides, first airplane rides, all kinds of things like that. So that was really exciting. And my boss at the time was Tom Lacey, and he was already talking about cultural burning back then, and at the same time, I guess, on the Indian Reserve in Schluss and other areas, there was burning in the springtime. The people would burn the ditches, and they'd burn the fields and burn around their house first thing in the springtime. And as I was growing up, the firefighters would come out and put the fires out, and then but people would just continue to burn on the reserve. And then when I became full-time in 1996 with the Wildfire Service, Tom Lacey got me to go through 25 years of fire reports with the interest of the cause, the lat and long, like where it started, and the time of the year, and that kind of thing. So I went through 25 years of reports, and we found that in the springtime, the lower elevations areas were burning, and the cause was Indigenous fire use, cultural burning, miscellaneous unknown, and hot start. And from that, and the fall time was exactly the same, but it was higher elevation, like where the berries grow and where the hunting areas are and things like that. So then we found out that was Indigenous people still doing what they did for thousands of years, was burning the areas that they pick, or we pick, I guess, our medicine and our plants and our berries and our mushrooms, and we hunt for our animals and all this kind of stuff. We keep the forest healthy in this way, and it's been done for thousands and thousands of years. And so with that information, Tom Lacey did did help out at the Logan Lake,
You started it.
the Logan Lake, he took that idea because we found, that the lodgepole pine spots about 5 kilometers on a pretty good day of burning, but as you can tell, it gets a lot worse than it can get, like you're saying, like up to and more than 10 kilometers. But if the idea around there was a 5 kilometer spotting distance, and then so everything around Logan Lake was manicured, and the unit crew that I was on at the time, we were doing the falling and piling and burning and just getting rid of the fuel all around Logan Lake. And so if you take that idea of why we did it, it's because of encroachment on the land of the tree species. And not only that, like here in Kamloops would be sage. There never was a sage ecosystem here. It was grassland. And the ponderosa pine and the fir also, they'll take over from the sage. The sage will take over the grass. So naturally, what you want to do is have it back to grassland and burn it every 2 years. And so if you don't burn it every 2 years, then the sage will eventually come in. And sage is really hard to burn. It won't burn in the springtime unless you pull it out and pile it and burn it. And same in the fall time. And really the only time it'll burn is just like a light switch. It won't burn, all of a sudden, boom, it goes. And when it goes, it goes. And tumbleweed is also mixed in, and that's even worse than sage. So that encroachment also leads to overstocking and overaging of the different species that come in. And so overstocking is the sagebrush that comes in, and the ponderosa pine and the fir are also coming in and taking over. And now that area that used to be grass, you see the ponds that used to have water in them all year round no longer have water in them because there's just so much demand for the water that we have, and we're in a desert ecosystem, right? So when things overage and die and that kind of stuff, when the trees and the fuel and like even the sage, when you look at the sage, it's one of our medicines that we use to smudge and to clean our house with and to wash our clothes with and things like that. But even the sage leaves are small, and you can just see that they're just not producing. They're not healthy, and so the center of that whole thing is fire, right? The indigenous use of fire, which was stopped about 100 years ago now. And so if you think of the grassland, if you stop burning cultural burning 100 years ago, and it should be burned every 2 years, you stop 50 cycles of burning. And then the sage comes in, and the ponderosa pine and everything else. And that overstocking, and it leads to a lack of water. Right? So there's less groundwater actually getting into the ground, and the ponds filter the water, and they, I remember when I was young, just seeing like right now, the sky would be full of ducks, and in the fall time it would be full of ducks, and it was like 24 hours a day, and it was for about a month and a half, just full of ducks. And now that there's just not there anymore. You might see just the odd one here and there. Another thing that used to happen in the springtime would be frogs. The frogs would wake up in the mud, and then they would just start going out, and wherever they're going, but man, they'd be all over the road and everything else, and that doesn't happen anymore either. So my message, now that I guess I'm just trying to paint the picture that, that the forest isn't healthy, you know, it's not beautiful, it's full of wood ticks, it's full of mice, it's, you know, the deer, they don't have a place to have their babies because the forest is just too thick and there's too many places for the predators to hide and ambush, and, you know, they're all stressed out and all that stuff. So, there's no, like, just painting a picture that, you know, the forest isn't healthy, and I hope that you're able to look at the sagebrush and the trees here in a different way. That if you looked at it, you know, if you go to the Calgary Museum and you look at the photos, you know, the 1900s and earlier than that even, you'll see just grasslands, you know, and just tree, just here and there. But now you look at it right now, and it's, you know, it's right down in Saheli, the trees, and, you know, I bet you there's trees right downtown here, and it never was that way, right? So we're putting ourselves into danger, you know, by not, by fighting the land and not working with the land. And by working with the land, our summers are now like full of smoke, you know. I remember when I was young, I hardly ever saw smoke, you know. That was the gift that my ancestors gave us, you know, clean water, the safety of the land. You know, there was fires, but you know, up until 1994 or so, the fires were fairly small and easy to attack and things like that. But then, you know, with climate change and with overloading and overaging and lack of water, the fires are becoming worse and worse and worse, and it doesn't look like it's changing. And so the First Nations have a way, it's called 7 generation thinking. That's planning 7 generations ahead, so that we, all of us here, have a gift to give to our grandchildren, our great grandchildren, and the ones that aren't even born yet, the ones that are coming. Our gift that we can give them is clean water, clean air, and a safe place to live. And if we do nothing, like Garnet was saying, you know, you get what you get, right? You get all this bad fires that are coming, and you know, the hard days, and, you know, instead of 4 or 5 days at 50 degrees, you know, maybe next heat dome will be 6 to 10 days, and after that it might be 10 to 15 days. You know, so it's not getting any better. But what we can do as citizens, as people, as human beings, is look at the land in a different way, and use that 7 generation thinking of knowing what the land looked like before, try to get it back the way that it was. Ponderosa pine and fir should be burned every 7 to 15 years. The areas where you want meadows and grass and those kind of medicines that grow in the grass would be burned every 2 years. And the higher elevation areas of lodgepole pine would be burned about every 40 to 60 years. And then higher than that, the subalpine would be burned about every 100 to 200 years. And those are standard replacement burns, and that's like Sun Peaks, right? So when Sun Peaks burns, it's going to burn really hot, and it's going to be spotting distance will be at least 5 kilometers. And just being able to plan, you know, the areas that you live in, and to make your areas safer, you know, in a good way, and then that'll be your gift to the next generations to come. And then also another thing that we need to do is just educate the public, you know, people that are moving in, that this is a dry desert ecosystem, and for people to know that, you know, if they see stuff